obviously looking back now, maybe I was a bit overreacting a little bit. I kind of went into like hyper boogaloo mode. I got my first private owned gun. I started. I got like a doomsday fucking not a shelter, but like, because we have doomsday shelters here everywhere, but like, like just enough food to keep me going for a few years and all that.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so I went full into that direction, and it didn't influence the music in the beginning, but as soon as, you got to understand, we started the band as a bunch of kids, and we couldn't play any live shows for the first 2 years of the band, none at all. Well, we did underground shows that weren't exactly legal, but the
You're listening to the Art and More podcast with your hosts, Nathan and B.R. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience, and B.R. is a British anarchist that moved to the States. Both are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
So, guys, welcome to the Art and More podcast. I'm BR, joined by my co-host Nathan, and
Hello.
today we have a popularly requested guest, which we haven't done that in a while. We should listen to you guys more. So, you guys have good recommendations.
Evan's made a whole list. Like it's in the spreadsheet. It's basically like an Excel form full of people that everyone wants. We should get around to that.
Yeah, well, we are. So today
Yes,
we are joined by Donagh of Xonor, so a Swiss thrash metal band who hate the government as much as this podcast. So we have you guys have been asking us to sit down with these guys for a minute, and here we are. So lots to talk about. We've got plenty of Eurotrash commonalities with these guys, but yeah. First off, that's not a Swiss accent, is it?
Nope, no, you guessed that right. I already explained to the lads before, but the accusations are true. I am a legacy member of the IRA. No, but the that's at least what the TikTok comment section insists that I am. No, it's Irish born, moved to Switzerland as a child, and then next thing you know, you have this funny half Swiss, half Irish accent because your dad forced you to speak English at home, which is a good thing nowadays because
Yeah.
I get to live in the Anglo zeitgeist as much as the Swiss/German zeitgeist. So growing up bilingual, fantastic. Would recommend.
Do you know like more than two languages, like German as well?
Well, it
Or
all
do they?
depends on how you count it.
Yeah.
You have German, you have
Yeah.
Swiss German, which, some people say it's in a different language because it's technically a dialect, but most Germans can't understand us, so I consider it our own language. So
Yeah.
that makes three languages: speak French, what I learned in school, and a tiny bit of Russian.
Damn.
So we've got like a real Renaissance man over here.
Renaissance,
Kind of not what
yeah.
I was expecting. I don't know why.
Renaissance man who writes about murdering the government and returning to monkeys. So our kind of person. We'll have to get into RAADS school later, but
Hell yeah.
actually, we'll get into it now.
Yeah, fuck it, dude. We're here. We're here.
Have you ever heard of the autism test?
The autism test. I'm pretty sure I'll pass, but what's the autism test?
So we can put a number to how autistic people are, and we have been for both ourselves and our guests. First 5 minutes of the show, people. It's called the RAADS test, and we'll send you a link after the show. But basically, it asks you a bunch of questions about how you behaved growing up, and it's like, okay, well, it puts you into either probably not autistic, might be autistic, or like seriously, very obviously autistic.
But the funny thing is, like, there has been such a positive correlation between how much you hate the government and how many. My mind jumps to it, that meme with Garfield, and it's like, it's a headline that's like, autism prevents manipulation through propaganda, and
it's a
and
superpower,
it's just a
man.
picture of Garfield. It's a literal superpower. The most interesting guy we know, like, maxed it out. Like, this is a guy who's like basically America's equivalent of a traveling monk who just like goes and builds night vision and like.
I want to meet him.
He's the coolest guy, and he's got 223 out of a possible 250. Like,
I fucking hate the government. I got a 62. So like that.
I think the pass score is 75. Like, it's 70 or 75. So he
Yeah,
failed.
yep. I did. Yeah, I just
Yeah,
got
you
brain
don't hate the
damage.
government enough because you're not autistic.
I need
I-
to get more vaccines.
Yeah, just eat more
the
microplastics.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's never enough. You got to catch them all. Got all catch all not the autism form, all the chemicals, all the whatever is in the water. That's why I'm drinking bottled water now.
Hell
I
yeah,
can't blame you.
get
I,
it
I,
down,
I,
yeah.
I don't know. Even as a kid, okay, maybe this is one autistic trait. Even as a kid, I've always drank tap water, but I was always a little bit skeptical of it because first off, it always tasted the same, and I don't know if it's the same where you are, but when you put out the tap water, sometimes it's really white, and foggy, and they always say it's the calcium from the the underground water, and I was just always like something's off with this because bottled water, because it always has been better, so I've been always more keen to trust bottled water, but I don't know what to think of it. At least we don't have fluoride, at least that's what they say.
Do you have
Ooh.
that in Switzerland? Is that an additive there?
I don't think it is. No, I don't.
Oh, yeah. No, I
What's
think that's definitely like something introduced into the lower income neighborhoods in like Chicago.
Mm,
Bad
mm.
joke. Bad joke. Let's get off that whole
Well,
train.
the whole fluoride thing is like I think only like England does it, Ireland does it, and the US does it,
Yeah, the
and
That
Canada does
explains a
it.
lot.
Yeah,
it's maybe, yeah, exactly, but I don't know. My grandparents, they had their own well in their house, and they say it's because it's just cheaper if you have the land and you have a well, you might as well use it. But I kind of feel like they just also didn't trust the tap water either. So,
yeah.
and it always tasted
Nice.
better. And my hair, when I washed my hair, it was always much softer. So like it always felt great to wash my hair at my grandparents' house.
Yeah,
So I
I
Where
think
I'm at, we
yeah.
got lead pipes now, so I'm like, kind of want to get off that and have my own well, but
so.
Can we
lofty,
can we dox where you
lofty
live?
goals. Well,
I don't think
Appalachia,
we Appalachia. Okay. Um,
Ooh.
the
I live in
eastern
like
U.S.
semi-rural mountain town Idaho, and the water here is ridiculously hard. When it evaporates, it leaves this white crust behind. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
great. I filter all of my water.
Oh, that's
It-
normal here. Like
yeah,
just white crust after water. We have when you have a shower and you have like a glass thing, you have to wipe it off, otherwise it won't be transparent anymore after
yeah.
a few weeks.
So
It's
I,
gonna
I
be
I just wonder, does that white crust make you like more or less autistic?
exactly. Who
Hmm.
knows? Who knows? That's the thing. They
I-
don't tell us this. They don't tell us the information isn't out there.
the
You know.
critical information.
It,
So
it,
that's something to get us somewhat on topic. Like an anti-government centric band in Switzerland is not something I thought I'd ever hear about because from where I sit, like in Europe, anti-government types are few and far between. You just don't come
Yeah,
across many of us.
yeah. Generally, they
mm,
get arrested these days, anyway.
Or there's just not enough of a culture for it to even exist. So like how did you come to where you're at, and how did Xonor become a thing?
well, it all starts when I was a child. Growing
All
up
good
in
stories,
Ireland,
dude.
being Irish Catholic dad. So it was started off with me listening to the old IRA compilation videos on YouTube, so just all
I
those,
love that.
horse slips and, all the rebel songs. I knew them all by heart when I was like 10. So that really influenced me, definitely, but not as much as I think it did. And I think it all kind of took a turn. It was around when I was about 2015, when I was about 16 years old, when in my from my perspective, or at least from what it felt like, that's when things started to get very extreme, as in what you could say and the way the news worked. At least that's when I sort of became conscious of it, because then I was following the US election for the
Yep.
first time, and I was just looking at this Trump guy, and it was just interesting to me how every people would talk about them, because it felt like one side was saying, "Oh, this guy is literally Satan," and the other side was saying, "This guy is literally the God sent. And it's just, but there was always, whatever you think of Trump, the media has always been extremely against him. And that's just kind of the way so the way they treated Trump in the media is also the same way they would treat all sorts of people. They take, for example, big picture of person X, and then it'll be like a quote on the bottom, and when you look at that, you assume, okay, this person in the picture said this quote, but you actually read the article and no one reads the articles anymore. They just read the headlines. You go down and the quote was from completely someone else. So it was like misleading. And this goes for all sorts of characters, and it kind of pissed me off at an early age. And I think I became radicalized when. So I was about 16 years old, and me and my Russian friend, we hacked into the computer server of the school, and we stole the files for the exams, basically.
Based.
and
I love that.
instead of just keeping to ourselves and just passing it with A's, what we did, our dumbasses, we wanted money, so we went to the other students and said, like, yeah, hey, look, we're selling these, like, give us $10 and we'll give you the files and all that. Well, eventually that spread pretty quickly, as you can imagine. Next thing you know, we got ratted out by this kid who was very active in politics. It's the Young Socialists, basically. It was, which has,
Of course.
I don't think it was anything. Well, anyways, what happened then is he basically spread around. This guy hated my guts because there's this girl too who liked me and I liked her, and she was also in these Young Socialists, and they well, basically, he went spreading around that I was a Nazi and shit like that because he was
Ooh.
jealous and shit. And so basically, I was kind of slandered at a very young age, and it just completely wasn't true. But that kind of made me very, sort of. I don't want to say anti-government just yet. It was just very contrarian in the beginning, and very, kind of like whatever the politics can offer me now, it just wasn't working for me, whether it was right wing or left wing, because I just felt like there was so much dirt, and I couldn't trust anyone. So I got a deep mistrust of my fellow man, and the way it influenced the music was, well, the pandemic. It's quite simple.
Oh
We were.
man, I feel like 3/4 of the like, how did you learn to hate the state?
Yeah,
Um, stories
100%.
go back to the pandemic, including mine. Like, sorry, continue.
Well, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, honestly, it's something we've gone over a whole bunch of times, but like a big question on this show, going back to the beginning, fucking episode 4 or whatever, is what radicalized you? And
Mm,
so many of that, especially for our American listeners, and even otherwise, because the internet's just this giant big playground. Boogaloo memes, which
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
yeah, those popped up around like late before the pandemic, and then a lot during
hmm
the beginning.
2018,
2019.
19. Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually has a good correlation with the way I got here too, actually, because that was also the time after, when I was about 18, I started to really get into guns. I was
Hell
always
yes.
interested, and I just started, like, then I was at 18. One of the first things I did was fill out my application, but then I didn't have the money, so I never ended up buying a gun. I got the whole license and everything, but I didn't buy one. And then I got one. Then I went through my application when I was about, well, basically the whole Boogaloo Boys things. And then in 2019, Switzerland had a referendum, and it was regarding gun laws. And man, it was the biggest. Okay, you do not associate Switzerland with gun violence, right? We have
No.
insane amount of guns. You know, we have 3 million registered in a country of 8 million, and that's 3 million registered.
Yeah.
Before 1999, no guns were registered. All
Oh
right,
yeah.
and so I can name you three grannies who have their husbands or their late, their grandpa's service rifle up in the attic, and they don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
So it's and but basically in 2019 we had a referendum where they wanted to tighten the gun laws to adhere to the EU's gun laws. In Switzerland, it's in the
Hmm.
EU, and
Yeah.
they were talking about gun violence in Switzerland as if it was America, right? And I know America has its problems and other places in the world does, but Switzerland doesn't. So we were importing this drama from the United States and from other places, and they were talking about, oh, look at all these suicides that are happening by gun in Switzerland. You know, like there was like, I think 16 shooting victims, 16 in an entire year in Switzerland last year, and they were talking about it as if it was in the thousands.
Jesus.
So, anyways, our retarded as our people are, we decided to vote away our right to bear arms. This
Hell yeah.
happened in
That's always good.
great. It was fantastic. We had the right, but now it's a government granted privilege. Now, a privilege which I do have, but it's no longer a right. And this is just because of pressure from the European Union. And don't even get me fucking started. Now, the yeah, so this was 2019, and I was pissed. Like you, I don't think I was ever that pissed. And then the pandemic came up, so you started okay. First to take our guns away, and next thing you know, they're locking us down. You know, so the I mean, obviously looking back now, maybe I was a bit overreacting a little bit. I kind of went into like hyper boogaloo mode. I got my first private owned gun. I started. I got like a doomsday fucking not a shelter, but like, because we have doomsday shelters here everywhere. But like, like just enough food to keep me going for a few years and all that.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so I
And
went full into that direction, and it didn't influence the music in the beginning, but as soon as, you got to understand, we started the band as a bunch of kids, and we couldn't play any live shows for the first 2 years of the band, none at all. Well, we did underground shows that weren't exactly legal, but the no,
Well,
they were
you got to expand on that a little bit, because that's the thing I noticed, because I just got to the US from Europe, like, and
hmm
then like a year or two into me being in the US, I was so excited to get into like the American punk scene and see like, a wealth of bands that would come through, and then they shut everything down. I was like, well, fuck. And because
yeah.
I wasn't already ingrained in the culture, like finding those underground shows was, it was hard. But like,
Mm.
what was the underground scene like in Switzerland?
Sad.
Fair.
Even before the pandemic, it was sad, man. You
Yeah.
go to local shows, and okay, so not to talk shit about the bands. The bands in themselves, they were pretty, like, musically pretty good, and also very cool people. But it was just, there's obviously no single Swiss band that was actually like there was hype around. There was Paleface initially, but
oh, Paleface Swiss? Is he actually Swiss?
yeah, they're Swiss. They're
Okay,
Swiss.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they changed their name from Paleface to Paleface Swiss because they had like a copyright issue. And but I didn't know of them when they only got started around then, as a little bit about 2 years before we got started. So basically, there was no, like, you could just feel it was like uncool to be metal, to be punk and all that. You go to these shows and they'd have a handful of people, and but still, like, we started this band project, and we thought, like, we just want to play some shows, and not even that was granted to us. So we kind of just took it upon ourselves to host gigs in our rehearsal room. We got a one of our second gig was in a restaurant, like somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, but there was a whole bunch of people showed up because it was one of our first shows, and it got shut down by the cops, but they let us go. Like, they didn't punish us for it, which was lucky. But yeah, like, it was very sad in the beginning, because even like people were blaming the pandemic for live shows dying down, but to me, unless it was like big bands, it was already pretty dead. Like,
Mm.
look, yeah, and that's changed since after the pandemic a little bit, especially with us kind of having the rise. But the uh I could just remember the frustration we had of just sitting in that rehearsal room with no goals in sight, and then I had to go to the army for a few months, and I was just looking forward to come back and get on this band. But then you're just thinking, man, when is this pandemic thing going to end? And basically, we had an election during the pandemic too, which it was about giving the government authority to prolong the COVID law, which it was called. Yeah, and it would allow the government to, if a pandemic were to ever come back in the next 10 years, they could do the same thing again. So it extended their emergency power for another 10
Yeah,
years.
just a blank
Yes.
check.
We
And
had a
Swiss
really
people,
similar thing in Canada too.
exactly, and Switzerland accepted that. And it's just like, so I hate talking shit about the place I love, but
No, I totally understand.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, no, you're talking to two people who couldn't be more sympathetic to that. It's like
mm,
I wish I could have stayed to a degree. I wish I could have stayed where I was and that things would have got better. But you kind of gotta talk shit about it if you care about it. You know, like if
exactly. That's
otherwise it would be like fuck it. You know,
you
fuck it. Let's
just
just
gave
torch
me
this
the
place.
you
Yeah,
just
you
gave me
can
the
love a country
perfect.
without loving its government.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. And you just gave me the perfect entry thing. Like, yes, it's a thrash metal band, anti-government from Switzerland, and it's rather than comparing ourselves to other metal bands who are outspoken against all sorts of political shite, it's because we care about what's going on in the country and we want to change something, not not exactly hanging politicians or anything, because we're not at that point where they're not that bad. They might be, there's the saying, never attribute to malevolence to what can easily be what's contributed to incompetence. Is that
Yes,
how it goes?
yes, it
Or
is.
so exact, it's more that it's just a bunch of hobby and semi-professional politicians just kind of doing their job but not really caring. And it's just very bureaucratic and all that, and a lot of stuff is just stupidly broken. It's not broken because someone's actually kind of trying to destroy our lives, but more broken because you know uh, it's just completely irrational laws and strict everything's so strict here. And yeah, so that's exactly, we might be an anti-government band, but it's more of a uh, or anti-authoritarian, of course, but it's hard to put into words because it's not like we want to cause a violent revolution, because in
Yes.
Switzerland it's not that bad, but our music is very global in that way because there's other countries out there that have it far worse, and they need that message, like if you look at Turkey and a lot of countries in Europe too.
Yeah.
So when especially when Swiss media ask us, like, yeah, when look, we have it pretty good here in Switzerland, how can you say something like that? So, well, maybe maybe if you open your eyes and look what's going on in the rest of the world, you'd understand that it's not just us. And this has also been the reason why our fan base has grown mostly in the United States, United Kingdom, Germany, Sweden. Yeah, those are their top countries basically. So there's a
I
lot
was
of
gonna say, like, just looking at your demographics amongst your audience, you can kind of tell like where are the most frustrated because
oh yeah,
it's definitely a scale of like malevolence with governments. Like some places,
oh
like you
yeah,
said, it's people with shitty ideas, shit execution, who are just
mm,
like they. If the grid went down, they wouldn't make it. Like these people have no.
mm,
They can't contribute. They're just pencil pushers, and they want a popularity contest, and we have to suffer
exactly.
because of it. And then you have
Yeah.
guys who are outright like egotistical dictators. It's
Ex- you have a bit of both, exactly, and
yeah.
you can tell by the countries our music gets appreciated most is the countries that, if you look at what's coming out of there and what's happening there, you're like, yeah, that place is fucked. Like especially the UK and Germany. I mean,
Oh
I'm
my
seeing these
god.
videos all the time. Sorry to put the spotlight on your country there,
No,
Oh
no,
no,
but
I don't think
but
anyone
like
should put the spotlight
seeing,
on his
yeah,
country
you
more than he
posted
does.
this on Facebook, you might have hurt some feelings and we're going to arrest you. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck,
like 2 years in jail over tweets, things like that.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
dude,
It
I've been
is.
over here. I've been over here or I think about 6 years now, and I haven't been back since because holy fuck, if I'd have been in the UK through COVID, I would be in jail or dead. I was
Yeah.
saying this in our group chat the other day. So someone shared one of those videos where it's like, "Oh, you offended some feelings." Is it some woman getting locked up for like I don't know a year and a half or some shit for like sharing
So,
something? I was like. It's like, go and fuck yourself. Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Remember
exactly.
that whole thing a little
Mm.
while ago about like the UK chief cop, whatever bullshit. It's like, oh well, we're going to start enforcing this in, if Americans even make
Oh, yeah.
tweets, we're going to have to, take action on that.
We're going to
Um,
get them extradited. Like,
yeah, it's
It's
like fucking
God.
try it. But
Yeah,
but
that's honestly, it's people are trying to like hide it. They're trying to act like the US is the place that's fucked, but
oh,
like
it's
especially
everywhere.
it's everywhere. But I don't know. I mean, I look at the US and I see a lot of shit wrong there, but no, I don't think it's as bad as in Europe. I really don't think it is.
The US
With
is kind of sorry, go on.
I think in US there's still a little bit of a divide depending on which state you're in and like which region. I think in more rural areas you probably it's probably pretty okay still. But the more you go into like the cities, the metropolitan areas, the more fucked it gets, and it's
Yeah. I
it's
can
kind of the pattern I'm
absolutely
seeing there.
confirm that. Like,
Yeah.
speaking as someone who, moved to the States and, spent a lot of my life consuming American media and watching the
Mm.
news, I can kind of confirm that, like, news about the States is fucked. It's like, oh, yeah, shooting every week, the violent crime is out of control, the so and so is happening, the corruption, the violence, the everything. And, like, my family, when I moved here, they're like, no, you're going to get hate crimes, you're going to get killed, like, you're going to get robbed. Everything is, and I drove across the entire continental United States. I've probably been to over half of the states now, and outside of really major metropolitan areas, and even including a lot of the cities, which I wouldn't live there, but they're not remotely as bad as the, like, nowhere in the states, I think, with some small exceptions, are remotely as bad as the news media outside of the states makes it seem. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I live in a, like, I don't, it's a large town, like 30, 40,000, and other than an incident a couple years ago, which kind of made national news, no one has been murdered here in a decade.
I
Nice.
love the disclaimer that you have to put in every single fucking time. You're like, aside from the one spree of
Aside from
murders,
the,
it's
the
really
one
chill.
spree killing, yeah,
Like,
where some like grad student from Pennsylvania snuck through like a bunch of WSU students' windows and stabbed four of them to death.
well,
Jesus.
that's technically a Pennsylvania murder. It was
Yeah, that's
imported.
the yeah. He was from the city and he stabbed people from Washington. Does it really count? That was mean of me. It's a tragedy. Um,
Oh man. Uh,
but
Yes.
yeah, like I live in a place where it's like I go buy groceries and like two people in line have guns on their hips and nothing bad happens here. Like,
Yeah, I see. And like I live in a place where, when you have to go to army service, you just see a bunch of young men inside the train, public transport with their rifles because we have to bring them home after service and we have to go back in with them. Like it's just it it just really shows that it's a cultural thing,
yeah,
especially regards to gun violence and violence in general. It's
oh,
like
100%.
it's all gang related, and I kind of picked up on that a long time, like just not a long time ago, a few years ago, when I was just following what's going on in the US. Like, yeah, I think we're not so honest about what's going on there, and like you kind of grow up in Europe with the attitude, yeah, Americans are stupid, and a lot of Europeans just really believe that.
Yeah,
It's the most it's the most commonly held bigoted belief is
yeah.
that an entire nation of people is just stupid,
It was
you
true
know,
in
and,
Canada as well. It was
Oh,
really,
yeah,
really
and
true.
the UK.
and
Yep.
Yeah,
it's just superiority complex. Europeans really think we're something better, but we're not.
yeah,
We're just so not.
Dude,
yeah.
you
It's
know
weird.
exactly what it is. It's like telling the peasantry that they have it so much better.
Yeah,
It,
exactly. There you
like
go.
I'm dead fucking serious. Like the US, it's not in so hot a spot right now, but most of the world isn't. Like the economy globally is kind of fucked, and things have been a little unstable over the last few years. But like the thing that has held true throughout the entirety of the US's short history is that like sure the place is like it could be considered a little bit more dangerous. I mean, just the wildlife alone is more dangerous than you'd find in
Yeah.
most of Europe. Like
Oh yeah.
it's a more rough and tumble place. But
There was
like,
a town moose that just got rehabilitated because she had calves and people kept on getting close to her. Sorry,
just
Fucking hell.
a
yeah,
moose will fuck people up, dude.
dude, moose
But
are horrifying. I would rather deal with a bear than a moose. Like,
yes, agreed. Moose are like meese. Mooses, they're fucking eldritch horrors of themselves. If you encounter one in the woods, you get the fuck away. Because if that's a female and you're between it and it's what do you call them? Calves? They're
calves,
calves, right?
yeah, like
Yeah,
Cops,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If you're between a mother moose and their calves, like it will fucking kill you.
yeah. They're apex and they know it.
Yeah. But
They're
my
huge.
point, yeah, they are huge. They're fucking
They're,
horrifying.
they're
But
massive. Like I drive a station wagon, and I drove by a moose once, and it was like towering over. Um,
Eldritch horror, I swear to
yeah,
God. When you see one in person, like in the wild, you're like, Jesus. But
Mm,
anyway, all of that to say, the US, like, they talk about it like it's such a bad and dangerous place overseas, but like the reality is it's just a different way of living. Like you have so much more of a right to self-determination in the US, and it's not
yeah,
perfect. Like you're not in Europe and Canada and places like the Commonwealth countries, like it's the nanny state. Your hand is
yeah,
constantly held. You're told exactly how
mm,
to live your life. And there's from my experience, I'm sure maybe you guys too, like there's not much upwards trajectory in life. You're kind of like you're born into where you're mostly gonna stay, and
yeah,
it's stable but pretty dull and like not very. For me, it wasn't very fulfilling. I was like, this is not the place I want to put down
mm.
roots and like have my family because I'm like I'm kind of treated like the peasantry and like growing up
yeah.
as a Brit
Oh
who
yeah,
shot.
yeah.
I was always like, well, why can't I have a handgun? Why can't I have like a semi-automatic
Exactly.
rifle? Like, I'm a good
Yeah,
person. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Like, why am I treated like I'm some dangerous like moron?
dude.
Whereas
Yeah.
like Americans can just do that. Like, we're treated
Yeah,
as lesser than they are treated. So,
yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
My
I
mind jumps to I feel like guns are specifically a really big kind of like what radicalized you point to, because
mm,
like once you have a base level of knowledge about what they are and what they're capable of and anything, you watch the news and you watch any media report, governments talking, and you're like, holy shit, all of this is wrong and this is objective. You're
exactly. This
lying.
is
What are you
supposed to be
fucking doing?
objective. Yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as it's like, oh well, you're lying about this, what the fuck else are you lying about? And
Of
then
course.
yeah. So I feel like it's a radicalization point for a lot of young people because like
Oh
they
yeah.
get into this hobby and they're like, oh
But it
Jesus,
also a lot of it also has to do with, boys are boys,
yeah,
and most young boys will be interested in war and soldiers and guns and
yeah,
yep.
and knights and whatnot and Vikings, and it's interesting to us, but from a young age, like I remember in church, I was sent to Sunday school and we had to draw, and being a young boy, I drew a hand grenade because
Hell yeah.
hell
it's a
yeah,
Hand
hand
grenades are
grenade. It goes
sick.
yeah,
exactly, and I just remember all these women there just he going to my mother. Yeah, look, we're worried about your son. All he draws is weapons and stuff.
yeah,
Like, and my dad, he didn't usually come to church that often, but he was funny enough. He was there that day, and he basically told them to fuck off. Like, he's
Jeez.
a boy, and it's a lot of it is that, and a lot of these. I hate to go into the whole sigma of, I don't even, what do you want to call it, the whole Andrew Tate masculinity movement, but there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah, that
there's
guy's
a lot of
bullshit.
truth to there that men just aren't allowed to be men, and that also adds to the frustration because
Yeah,
then they find outlets. Instead of being able to just be men, they go all do all sorts of crazy other shit, and it's not healthy. I think part of being a man is you need to be you need to be capable of violence,
yes,
but you don't commit violence. Otherwise, you're just a coward or you're harmless, and being harmless isn't something good, right?
Yes.
So you have to be like a tamed beast, I guess you suppose. It sounds so cringe when you say it like that, but
No.
but it's also based in truth. Like I completely agree.
exactly, yeah. That's how the majority of human history was, and yeah, I think we've really, especially with our music, we've hit a nerve where it's like, like if you look at our shows, all sorts of people come. Obviously being metal and our fan base being most mostly young people. There's you have all sorts of people. You have from young men to transgender people to to people who don't even like metal that much to just fuck with our image. It's just there's a whole mix of people there. But I feel like, especially at our live shows, we've given a very ostracized people, and it sounds weird when you say it, but young men are just being ostracized, like just not included in these spaces. Which, when you asked me in the beginning there about how it is in the music, like in the music scene and in Europe and all that, it's we've basically given these people a home. And a prime example of how we just if just see this stuff is like, okay, you're going to hear the word motherfucker, you're going to hear the word, or the German equivalent at a metal show from a metal band on stage, But we played at this place in Germany, and our guitarist was there with he had like a Dave Mustaine kind of shirt on, and the guy had his shirt open so you could see his chest, it's just his stage outfit. But in the middle of the set, some guy comes up onto the stage and tells him he needs to button close his shirt. And I
What?
was yeah, yeah.
What the
And I
fuck?
was, saying I didn't pay attention too much, and he told me this after the show. And basically they turned our mics off because I was saying motherfucker too often. And
Really?
exactly, exactly. And then next thing after the show, I walk up to them and they're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" You know. And they said, "Yeah, look, if the women can't, this is a quote. If the women can't go show their chest, then he shouldn't. Out of respect, he shouldn't show his chest either." It's like, I have no problem with the women showing their tits. I don't know where he got that from. First of all, second of all, like, i- i- it's just there's just no room for they're all talking about tolerance and being yourself and being accepted by society, but as soon as it's like a young man wanting to be a young man, it's like, yeah, fucking behave and could form this and this and that, and I just hate seeing it, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
be the complete opposite with our band. I just kind of want to make like actual inclusion, actual diversity, diversity of thought, diversity of not just, what sort of general identity you belong to, but also, what you believe, and united by the music rather than just some stupid identity politics.
Yeah.
It's so wild, like forcing you to conform in to such an extent. I mean, one, like bearing your chest at an alternative show, like
Yeah. Or
regardless of
saying the word motherfucker.
man or woman, that shit's like 50, 60 years old. Like
Exactly.
people have been that is a time honored tradition, whether it's Flash in the crowd or a dude showing off all of his tattoos or a guy with a beer gut, holding the mic and like dripping with sweat. Like that's just part of the image, dude. If you can't tolerate that, like why the fuck are you involved anywhere near a venue or like
Yeah.
running
Exactly.
shows? That is insane.
Yeah.
And like
Oh,
in the wrong direction. That's some Puritan like bullshit.
I
it's
don't know
and
how
it's
true
it
this is. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, I interrupted.
I don't know how true this is, but I hear all sorts of like weird stories about like German culture and its kind of reverence for rules and order.
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
And I don't understand it. I see a lot about it. I remember one example was like it was a hypothetical question towards an American and a German, and it was like you get pulled over doing 70 in a 50 and you don't have a driver's license. What do you do? Or it was similar to that, and the American has their whole thing. It's like, this is what I would say to the officer, and the German refused because he said, why would I ever be driving without my license? um
Does not compute.
like it
Does not compute.
physically did
No.
not compute. And I saw another video a while ago which was a similar hypothetical, and the German started getting angry because he was like, this would never happen, this rule wouldn't be broken. And I feel like it's so deeply ingrained within the culture of like, you have to follow the rule.
The
You know,
rules, yeah.
yeah, you're hiding them under the floorboards, yeah. Like,
But
I feel like, that it's just so German. It's so
it
German.
is, and this thing that happened has happened in Germany too. It
Yeah,
was uh, it was in Freiburg, and we actually we're banned in Switzerland from 3 different venues,
What?
and
Why?
well, okay. So the first one was because they said, and I quote, "Yes, okay, thank you for your. We were booked for a festival, and the festival kicked us out again." And they said,
Again.
"Oh, so they kicked us out, and they said, okay, yes, thanks for your interest in playing with us. Unfortunately, because of the venue switch, you can't have you in the festival because of your album "Kill the Government" and
What?
your stage presence and all that. And so the first thing was, okay, first of all, it's not kill the government; it's murder the government. And second of all, it's not an album. And I basically, this is the first venue, so I was like, yeah, you know what, fuck off, right?
Yeah.
No worries. Now the second venue we played at last summer, and the guy who basically booked us for this show, he got in trouble from this venue. They said, yeah, you can't be booking that band anymore. It's too controversial and that. So he got in trouble for booking us after he had booked us already. And this venue has been known, like, I'm not taking this too personally either, because anything that's like remotely not, well, I guess remotely controversial, they don't book anymore. They just kicked out a
Just
bigger
nice,
band.
safe thrash metal bands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right. It's the most, yeah. And there's the third venue. It's one in Winterthur, and basically they believe we're a Nazi band
Oh,
because
good.
of my "Don't Tread on Me" flag in my
Are you
room.
fucking
That's the
serious?
reason. Yes, I'm very serious. They said, well, okay, I wish I could read it out to you, but it's in German, so I'd have to translate anyways. But it's like basically, yeah, okay, look, this is a conversation between someone else and the guy from this venue. Yeah, we can't have Xonor and that. They're way too non-transparent about their political beliefs, and we can't risk that. And you know, basically, I sent them a message like, okay, this is what we're about and all that, and don't worry, there's nothing weird going on here. And basically, the guy from that venue messaged our former guitarist asking, yeah, why did you leave the band? It's because they're like Nazis and stuff. And the guy was like, no, what the fuck, it's literally, as he said, well, because Donagh has his flag in his room, and right wing radical Christians use that flag and stuff like that. And that's three very very popular venues that we were banned from. And it's one of those things that I'm kind of annoyed about here in Switzerland too, is the all these venues, all these institutions, especially the government funders one, are infiltrated by a lot of these cancel culture people who have no, honestly, most of them are musicians who are in failed bands, who are
I was
probably
gonna
just
say,
oh yeah,
it's
just
never the successful people. It's just the pissed off people
no.
with nothing to show.
Exactly, like they're all in their little cute band and everything, and they're probably thinking, "Oh, maybe if I go work for this venue, I might be able to smuggle my band in once a year." And then they see like this thrash metal band that's been around for half as long as they have, and we've wiped everything clean. Like there's very few metal bands in Switzerland that you have Paleface Swiss, and you have the legacy bands like Celtic Frost and Kroner, who are more popular. But other than that, we're the most popular. It's apart from Paleface, of course. Well, Paleface are massive, but we've basically overtaken every single band in the scene, and just there's a lot of jealousy going around. And couple that with a bunch of, you know, people who can't be bothered to read some lyrics and actually engage with the people they're accusing of being Nazis. They just go ahead and oh, these guys are Nazis, whatnot, and then it's
This is
so
like your high
stupid.
school experience all over again.
Oh, you just said it, man. You just
Yeah.
said it. It's a whole cringe fest, and I try not to get mad about it, because it honestly doesn't make me mad, because it's kind of what I expected. Going on stage, screaming "murder the government," and and on Instagram, I don't know if you've noticed, we just recently did a political statement, and
Yeah.
if you actually look at the post, it just ends up with a Rick roll. So we're kind of
They
exactly. Exactly, and we're really going out of our way to not take a position
yeah.
politically. We're just like, look, we're writing our music, we put in our music what we believe, anything else is just so fucking gay, to be honest. Like whenever I hate to use that word like that,
Oh,
but
what a dude, gay and retarded. You're
exactly, gay and
fine.
retarded.
Yeah,
It's in my mind. I'm going to say it. So but you look at these bands doing this activism or slacktivism, as I call it,
yes,
and it's just like shaking your head every single time. And you read the comments and you see all these fucking idiots just, oh, I'm glad you guys are standing up for it. It takes a lot of bravery. Like, what the fuck bravery? Like, this is the status quo. Like this is what
yeah,
bands are expected to say, and they're just following up with it. They're all a
yeah,
bunch of pussies, and it takes a lot more balls to not give in to this pressure. Like, we get comments all the time, like, yeah, we. I won't listen to your guys' music until you publicly say that you're not a Nazi. And of course, I'm not a Nazi. Between us, I'll say that, and anyone who ever asks me. But I'm not going to go, you know,
like put a
join the
statement
club
out. Yeah,
because I'm scared. Like,
yeah,
fuck off. I'd rather people think I'm something that I'm not than me going out of my way to be like desperately, oh, this is what I am, please believe me.
yeah.
That's just kills every single little part of integrity, I think.
Well, I think it's the laziest way of shutting down a political argument is being like, "You're a Nazi, prove you're not." Like, it is
Yeah,
so
exactly.
fucking lazy, and you see a lot of it here. Like as bad as the Trump, like anti-Trump thing seems, like it's not as
Mm,
bad in person. It's just like very vocal idiots everywhere.
yeah.
There's a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, but it's like you talk to
Mm,
the average person in the street, and they're not really part of it. Um, but you'll see people shutting down conversations like, "You're a Nazi, you're alt right, you're so and so, you like guns, you're this, you hate the government, you're this," and it's like it's so fucking
exactly.
tiring. It's
Oh,
so
dude.
tiring.
Exactly.
Like,
This show has been labeled everything from like outright communist and that we love like we love commies and reds and all that kind of thing, all the
yeah,
way through to like, oh no, those guys are racist Nazis. It's like it's really
Yeah.
neither
It's
at all. But
yeah.
you
no.
know,
It's.
Like,
I think it
and
takes a
I
lot
don't
more of
want
that
to respond
nowadays.
to those with anything either. I'm not going to defend myself. It's like, if that's what you get out of this, well, like, go fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck off.
Fuck off. I don't care. Like, if you think I'm a Nazi, come kill me then, motherfucker. Like, my
Yeah,
draw time's fast short.
give it a go. Give it a
Yeah,
go.
yeah, or a
See,
communist. You want to let's go duel. Bring duels back. Legalize duels. I'm into it.
and like it's especially within the music scene, man. Like all these people coming up with these accusations and like
Yeah.
talking shit. They're all a bunch of, like, I could take 10 of them in a fight. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
dude,
Like,
always. Why do they
like
always
I,
look the same?
they always do. They're always the little skinny twiggy motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
no disrespect,
Soft.
but like just soft, weak men. And
Yeah.
and the women. I mean, okay, fair enough. Like they just yap, but they're not really full of like for like actual threat. But then you have these dudes who go like the white knights who really like they're so desperate for the cooch that they'll do anything to impress the blue hair girl who comes to his show every 6 months. It's a sad sight, and I'm
Yeah.
just sick of it. Which is why I've been focusing on trying to just build up my fan base as the way I want them to look.
Yeah.
As in, I don't want to surround myself completely with like-minded people. I'm just like,
No,
look,
of
if you
course.
fuck with us, we'll fuck with you. It's
Yeah.
not. It doesn't have to be more. We're a band. We're not politicians or activists, for God's sake. Just get on board. If you want to talk politics with me, that's fine. But you're not talking politics with the band, and it'll just be me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I'm here basically as Donagh from Xonor. And
Yeah.
if you were talking to Natasha from Xonor or Luca from Xonor, you might get a whole different approach out of this. Uh,
Yeah.
but you have the music. The music has a certain direction, and it fits into this podcast, I suppose.
Yes.
So,
Very much so. I was,
well, it
play
it
your music quite a bit. Yes.
oh yeah. No, I was gonna say, yeah, to speak about the band a little bit more, like how did you find guys that kind of fit with what you wanted to do with music? Like how did Zona like obviously there was that feeling of rebellion in the first place to start a band, start making music about this
Mm.
stuff, but how did you you know, where you collect the oddballs to create bands like this is always a good story. Like, how did you find these people?
Hey, we were four completely different people in the beginning. It was sort of okay. So the original lineup doesn't exist anymore. It's just me and the bass player Luca, who are from the beginning. The other two guys, one guy left because he just wasn't bothered. He didn't want to do music videos and stuff. He was just like, yeah, I just want to do music. I don't want to. I don't want to do any of this business stuff. And we were like, fair enough. And then we had a couple more lineup changes, and nowadays it's kind of just me giving, calling the shots here. I wouldn't go as far to say as the other guys are as mad as I am. Definitely not, in some cases. But it's the band has a brand, and that brand is working for us, and it speaks through the music, and we can all get behind it. But it's not like I went out of my way to find people with these opinions. Quite the opposite. We were just like, okay, we're a band, we need members, this is what we are. If you're interested, join up, and then you automatically attract the right people, really,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So, and anyone with a basic understanding of how metal and how punk is will just know, yeah, it's yeah, you're gonna hear anti-government text from a thrash metal band, so I'm not exactly thrown off by that, is what the other members would say. But it's I've definitely influenced the rest of the band a lot, maybe because I constantly find ways to prove that 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 the government is ruining things for us. At first they're like, nah, and then eventually they're like, yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Well, like an example I've started to use for people more and it has worked on a surprising amount of people. I'm just like, hey, well, think of your mom, think of your dad,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
now put them in a position of power. Just like, do you want that person running the country? And that's like the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Like the
That's
best
actually a
case
good example.
scenario is like well-meaning but stupid. The worst case scenario
Mm.
is evil and smart.
Whoa, whoa. Yeah, yeah. I get that. I think I wouldn't put. I might put my dad in because he kind of agrees with me on most things.
Yeah, your dad is a weirdly based example that goes against that. I'm sure many are. I think about my
But
dad
he's.
and like when he was telling me about how good tax is.
Mm. Well, I think my dad might be the kind of guy who's like he doesn't have the patience to be in a position like that. Like
Yeah,
he'd see a problem with drug dealers and I don't accuse him of anything. So, Dad, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but my dad's the kind of guy who, if there's a drug problem or a gang violence problem, he'd just have them all executed. You know,
Send the boys in.
yeah.
send the boys in.
He'd go
You
deal with
know,
it himself. He's got his old IRA dual barrel, hiding in the rafters in the barn, and he'll
pretty
go
much,
give him
and
2 days, and he'll take care of the problem.
exactly, because he just doesn't have the patience to do things diplomatically. And I
Yeah,
kind of got that from him. I've from the beginning. Well, actually, I can't say from the beginning, but at some point, I stopped nice guying my way through this music scene. Being
yeah,
friendly. I
good.
mean, obviously, I'm a kind person, and I don't disrespect anyone. But I if I feel like a lot of these music marketing gurus will say, you got to get along with everyone in the music scene, and I don't think that's true, because some people will just dislike you for all
Yeah,
sorts of all sorts of ungrounded reasons, and you don't have to take shit, and if a venue bans you, which, and we're going to come up with, trust me, we're going to be speaking about that at some point. um we're going to put these people to shame, and we're going to call them out, and there's this s- the nice we had a problem with the law recently where we did a music video, and we had these well, prop guns in the music video. And well, under Swiss law, anything that looks like a gun, well, this is the new law, is considered a gun, and if you walk
That was
around with it
good.
publicly, you can go to jail for up to 3 years
are you
or
fucking
a
serious?
fine. And it could be a water gun, it could be a pink Glock. Actually, as a matter of fact, just recently, some old granny ordered 2 pink water pistol Glocks from Timu, and she got fined, I think, 1,000 Swiss francs for it because they looked too real.
That's
And
adorable.
that's the thing. So basically, we had this music video. It was called Anti-Blitzreaktion, and it was about the epidemic that is speed cameras in Switzerland. And these speed cameras are everywhere. You drive 6 kilometers an hour too fast, that's an automatic $50 fine.
Oh man, that's
Yeah,
angle grinders.
yeah. There we go. Exactly. And here comes. This is where the. So basically, we released a song. We also had these stickers, and these stickers were perfectly round, and people started sticking these stickers onto police cars, and especially PO inside of the O. There's a perfect circle. I kid you not. The sticker fit perfectly inside the circle. So the police eventually got well, we gained the attention from the police, and they basically charged us with firearms. They didn't charge us. What's the word before you're charged? The
Accused?
No, actually, it is charged because, well, we weren't convicted, but we were
Yeah,
charged.
yeah.
Okay, so we were accused of breaching the Swiss firearms law, and we were facing up to 3 years in prison. Well, first thing I did, call my dad. He said, "Yeah, lawyer, just lawyer up. You'll be
Yeah.
fine. There's nothing here." And we just went there, pled the fifth on every single question apart from my name and address. Said, "Ain't saying shit, ain't saying shit." The entire band said everything. Said the same thing. Ain't saying shit, ain't saying shit, and we basically got the district attorney basically let us go after that.
Hell
But
yes.
and that was the inspiration for just to piss the cops off a little bit more. We released Cop Killer after that. So basically, people know at this point that there's a lot of we don't care, I guess you could say, and a lot of these bands that come say, "Yeah, we don't give a fuck," you know. But I can't say that we completely don't give a fuck either. But I guess
You showed up for court.
we show up exactly, and it was a whole thing, and people know about it nowadays, and they think it's hilarious because there was about 20 people in the music video. It's still on YouTube. We had to re-upload it multiple times, but it's not a violent video by any means. It was literally just a funny song about us driving around the country shooting speed cameras. How atrociously based is that? But there's a lot of people in the music video, and we were really trying to protect them. But thank God, the goon mask that we all wore in the music video saved saved us, because they couldn't technically approve our identities. We're all masked. So the goon mask saved us then, and starting there, I guess a lot of the we stopped nice guying, really, because we realized, look, everything is against us here in this scene, so we might as well just, at least the people who will appreciate us for who we are, at least they'll respect us even more. And of course, all these we've been kicked out of festivals, we've been denied opportunities. Like, there's not a single band contest we can participate in. We participated in the Wacken one, and well, we didn't manage to get into the finals for obvious reasons. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there's definitely a conspiracy against Xonor. Well, not a conspiracy. It's just like
politics.
We're just the annoying new kids on the block who just won't shut the fuck up, and they can't get us to shut the fuck up, and that pisses them off. Switzerland's very small, very tight knit, so it doesn't take a lot to be the center of attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're finding international attention, which is good. I think, like, rising
yeah.
above the microcosm that is the Swiss metal scene, and finding international appeal. Like, you are blazing out of the side of my Prius driving down rural Idaho, which
hell yeah, dude. I love that Prius.
That's
I
kind of
love no one
that-
expects the Prius.
That Prius has allegedly broken many, many, many laws, but that's the story for another time.
Remember at that airport in Redacted when an M16 fell out of the trunk?
Okay, yeah. Just very quickly for context, Washington, the state, has very, very strict gun laws, and so Nathan's picking me up in his Prius from the airport. Me and our camera guy Phil, and So we're loading up rifles into the back of the Prius, but we open up the trunk or the boot for the Europeans, and
Yeah.
a fucking M16 like almost topples out onto the ground. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Nathan! Like it's not a soft gun case or even stowed in a way where it wouldn't fall out when I open up the trunk. I'm just like, oh fuck, there's an M16 like right out front of the airport pickup drop off point. I'm just like. Jesus fucking, and, like
It's
we're in the middle of
barely a
traffic,
fuck.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
Up
We're-
there, where that particular thing happens, the local cops would be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Here's mine." Like,
yeah.
yeah. I've been,
Technically very illegal, but they don't give a fuck, thankfully.
yeah,
But good lord.
yeah.
That's what I love.
For any federal agents that are listening, it was an airsoft M16.
That's
Yeah.
true. I
This
remember.
also didn't happen. It was AI. It was AI generated.
Also, this is a lie.
Yes, I was wearing a mask and I plead the fifth. Well, I did wearing a mask while I did nothing. Fuck off, call
And
the cops.
you know exactly if there were actual federal agents, they'd be watching you, and they're building the case slowly but surely.
Oh, dude, they've had years. We've committed
Years and
we've
years.
committed hundreds of hours of stories to this show, so they can.
Yes.
If they want to comb through it, God bless. We get
Yeah,
we
I was gonna say
appreciate the downloads.
we're just big liars. Everything we
Yeah.
say is satire. So
I think
This is all comedy.
I think they're all I think all the ATF agents are mostly worried about losing their jobs right about this point because the whole Doge thing. It's a beautiful sight. Like if of any look, I don't know, I don't care. Disregard how it's being done by Elon Musk and all that.
yeah.
But just the idea of just half the government getting fired is just
Oh, dude.
Oh, it's
I-
fucking
I-
amazing.
beautiful. You
I
know,
want to see a bunch of tattered three-letter agency windbreakers just like shaking a cup for change, and I just grab a fistful of pennies and just chuck it in their fucking face.
Oh man.
exactly. And I think that would solve a lot of our problems here.
Yeah.
You
Man,
know,
I want the like I hope that continues. I'm not super optimistic.
I'm not holding
but-
my breath for it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, that's
because
the
The
thing.
government always.
I like them being fearful.
Yes.
I don't trust the government too much to solve the government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
fuck no.
but it is going in the right direction. You know, like that's you know, there's always little things that happen like that, and they kind of make you happy for a while, but then eventually you're like,
You're like, oh,
you know,
well, nothing ever changes. Everything's the same.
nothing ever changed, and then that's the kind of why I've never gone into politics properly because, like, even with all the things that bother me nowadays, and there is another side that says, yeah, we can solve all this, and then
Yeah.
it's just
And then
nothing.
nothing ever changes.
Nothing ever
Oh, dude.
changes exactly.
I'm sure you've seen it in your time. Like, not that you guys are like, standing up and giving like political theory speeches or anything at your shows, but like just the simple like up and down of people being anti-authoritarian and okay, now a politician that I kind of like is in power, so fuck it.
Exactly.
Like I'm on the winning team now, and then 2 years
Yeah,
later they're
then
like,
excuse everything they do. Too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then eventually they're like, actually, this guy sucks. Nothing changed. Nothing ever happens. And you're like, well, come back. I'm still here, buddy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like no kings. No kings.
Yeah, pretty
Simple
much.
as. Simple as.
You know, you're kind of just forced to just mind your own business. You know, it's see, that's the thing. People associate with centrism, but I just want to grill for God's sake. It's just kind of
Yeah.
become like my life philosophy. Like just some people say, oh, you can't be complaining and then not going into politics, not participating, and all
Fuck
that.
off.
Like, fuck off,
Yeah.
fuck off. Nothing has changed ever
Yeah.
in like ever.
Or just
it's
vote harder.
vote harder. Yeah, I'll just go vote harder, and then my vote will just be cancelled out by some retard who can't even tell me when World War II began. That's just the reality of the situation. I've just pet peeve with people not understanding history, being able to vote. Like to me, that is the most you need to. History is the most important subject you could teach at school. It really is.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and the amount of people who just don't have no like I grew up as a kid who watched YouTube videos as like pastime on everything, so my general knowledge is pretty expanded, and I just know. I mean, not that I know everything like an expert, but I can tell you most ground dates and all that, and things that happen and why. Because if you don't understand history, you don't understand that things are happening again and again, and you don't understand. You then when you still understand history, you understand that nothing ever changed, and you just kind of lose hope in anything. So it's a dangerous path to go down. But if you can't tell me when World War II began or ended, or why World War II happened, and don't give me the school answer, give yes, okay, Hitler came to power democratically, but if like, okay, why did they vote for him? And then that's where it ends for most people. Oh,
Yeah.
they were frustrated. Well, why it keeps going back. It's
Things follow patterns. Like
I've lost hope.
yeah.
I've completely lost hope with regards to politics.
It's history repeats itself in a way that like you can pick out trends and no one ever seems to learn from them. Like
No.
some of the people that I know who were like more book smart back in Canada, the
Hmm.
exact same thing. Like they couldn't tell you anything about stuff you take for granted, like World War II, World War
Mm.
One, just like major event, like
Yeah.
9/11, which I take for granted because that's kind of my generation.
Hmm.
But
It
you know,
changed the
then
world.
yeah, the entire war on terror is just kind of like a footnote that no one really knows when it started or why, other than like, oh, a bunch of Arabs flew a plane into a tower.
Mm.
Um, like it's like the geopolitical nuance isn't something that people care to learn, and if they don't care to learn it, they're
But
not
it's the
going
most
to.
important thing.
Yeah,
If there's anything you could learn to be a better decider in politics or anything, it's geopolitics
yeah,
history. That's the stuff that makes kind of like economics can fuck off, and and philosophy and this and that. I mean, of course, it's all interesting and has its place, but you know, I don't know. That's so. I do vote. But I don't really vote. What I really do is I sign the voting slip, and then I just give it to my wife. And she knows what I'm going to vote for.
yeah,
So she brings it to the post office, so I just have to sign. She or thankfully we're in agreement with most things.
yeah.
So, but
I
yeah,
I used to just like when I was like 18, even I just ruin all of my ballots. I would just write something ridiculous on them, and people would be like, "Oh, well, if you're not doing anything, if you're not voting, you're not doing anything. Change stuff." I'm like, well, nothing's going to change anyway, and
yeah.
that's fine. Like I'm not going to be like a doomer over it, but
No,
I'm
exactly.
not.
Life
Yeah,
still goes on. That's the
yeah.
difference. You just have to do what you can do. But yeah, speaking about that M16 situation you had. Is that's one thing that I love about Switzerland is like people don't even look at you sideways when you're carrying a gun out in public. It's just so normal here.
I love
You
that.
know,
Well, a military rifle as well, especially. I love that. Like,
but not only military stuff. Like I went to the shooting range multiple times, and when you're a private gun owner, you can transport the gun out in public as long as you're going to the shooting range or leaving the shooting
oh, so
range.
like a slung rifle.
Yeah, yeah, like double barrel
Hell yeah.
shotgun. I had my pistol. I was standing beside the bank machine, getting some cash out for the range. People wouldn't even look at me twice.
Yeah,
They'll look, huh? You know,
That's like
it's
more chill than the states, which is
It is.
crazy.
I think it actually is. And one funny situation I had to go. We have a militia system here for the army, and every once in a while I have to just go in for a few. Like in next week, I have to go in for 10 days, and a few months back I had to go in for just one day, and I had this thing called flag guard, which is a ceremonial thing where you basically carry. It was a whole huge event with all these sort of commanders and generals and all that meeting up, and it was like a big a yearly report or something. And I was the only one who had to show up with a gun because they
Hmm.
all showed up with their uniforms but no gun, because I had to guard the flag, the Swiss flag. And it was funny because I showed up there with my gun, and there's there's another guy with a gun, but there was four total people there with guns, and two of them were police officers, and then there was me and some other guy. And just standing there with the feeling like, my gun is bigger than yours, by the way, and that vest isn't going to stop anything. It's just,
you
but
just look at him and wink and lick your lips.
exactly.
Nothing wrong with a bit of flirt.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And it was just funny because I just realized, wow, this is so normal for us, but everywhere else it's like crazy
Yeah.
situation, you know. I
Even
just
here,
some
and I,
random
I live
dude.
in like one of the most gun friendly places. Like I just
Yeah,
carry
I
stuff
know,
out to
yeah.
my car and just walk around. Like occasionally when I'm too lazy coming back from something shooting, I'll have a gun in my hip. But people look at it like it's kind of weird sometimes. Like it's not quite as normal as it is there. I don't think.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, I mean, the military rifles, people just it's like ingrained in their mind. People just know how they look. So as soon as you see the Sig 550 here, it's just it doesn't even like you won't even notice it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like invisible. But it's funny because there's a lot of myths going around about Switzerland, and the biggest myth is, oh, you bring the gun home after the army, but you can't have any ammunition, which is complete baloney. I've
Really?
you can mail order ammunition here. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I
I was
just to
going to say,
try
I've
it
heard
out.
that so many times that, like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, you can't have any ammunition. You have to have it,
No,
it's serialized and in packed boxes so they know if you use some. Like, I've heard that a bunch.
well, I mean, it probably is serialized and it is in packed boxes, but it's like you can go online, order without a gun license, 50 rounds of whatever.
Yeah.
It comes into your post office in a little box, with the yeah, from gunshop.ch. It's like it's a complete lie. If you know,
Well, so a couple of quick questions on that. Like, is there a limit on how much ammo you can order or have at one time?
no,
Hell
not
yeah.
from
Sick.
I know. No, it's at least I asked the guy that I didn't ask the law that, but I asked the guy at the gun store and he said it's not regulated. Ammunition isn't regulated here. It just
Yeah.
isn't. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously you're going to ring some alarm bells are going to go off if you buy 20,000 rounds, but
yeah, yeah.
that then those alarm bells will just be the police showing up at your door asking why, and then you just answer, yeah, I bought in bulk because it's cheaper,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
then that's like, yep, that checks that box, and we're gonna be have a good day, or you might get a phone call if they're feeling particularly lazy. Yeah, we just saw you order 10,000 rounds. What's going on there? You planning to kill someone? No, all right, okay, see ya. You know.
Chill.
Yeah.
um, and then like how your rifles are set up, are they just like bare bones? Do you guys
Yeah.
have optics? Can you do anything to them? Like if you take a service
Hmm.
rifle, like I,
Put a
I'm
suppressor on
curious
it.
about how, yeah, like when you take one home, like
Mhm.
how much is it yours? I guess is what I'm asking. Like, do people do that kind of thing? Like put lights and
Well,
optics and that kind of shit?
yes and no. Well, so the thing is, as long as you're in the service, the rifle technically belongs to the army, and you're just mining it, essentially. And it's but there is in the army regulations, there's certain attachments you can put on that are like okay by army regulations. Now, um, you might get an order from a sergeant to tell it to take it off or something. Like that stuff happens still. However, when you're finished with your service, which is usually when you're around 30, you can buy it off the army for about $100, the rifle,
Yeah.
and then
What?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
Holy
awesome.
fuck!
Dude,
they
I wish I
take
could do that with my C7. Like that'd be awesome.
exactly.
I I can't say the same about the SA80, but
Motherfucker, you just got the Alley and Kaufman one, didn't you?
because it's made in America.
Yeah, fair point, fair point.
Let's see.
Anyway,
You can just buy it off, but they do take out the full auto mechanism.
Yeah.
Like right
uh,
now, as long as I'm in the service, I can switch it to full auto.
Yeah.
But they sort of take it out and then it's just semi-auto. But I mean, who the fuck cares?
you can yeah, yeah. Full auto is like such a niche use case, so like
Mm.
Yeah.
fuck it.
Yeah. I still think everyone should be able to have it, but
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to make any arguments that like, oh yes, it's
No,
like it,
It's the difference
yeah.
between being Omega level threat or harmless.
Well, so yeah, but basically, I have an attachment. I have multiple attachments on mine, but it's very it's bare bone mostly. I just have a Picatinny thing on the top with a red dot, the cheaper red dot that I bought at the store, and some like some rubber things to help with the grip on like in the pistol grip, and that's basically my rifle. Like it's mostly a money question for me because stuff is expensive, as you know.
yeah,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you buy
especially
a
in Europe for whatever reason, like here you just pop on like tax swap or like
mm,
Reddit has a massive like buy and
Reddit,
sell. Yeah, and you can
really
get
Oh
okay.
anything.
yeah.
Like
Well, here you can buy it, but it's all new and very overpriced. Like the cheapest red dot you can get is maybe $180, I suppose.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that's like some Chinese thing.
Yeah.
But the fun thing about the process of acquiring civilian weapons, people say it's a lot more strict here, but it's really not. It just takes longer. I
Yeah.
know that for a fact in America, when you buy a weapon, they do a background check,
Yeah.
and in some states they also have a waiting time where you have to wait, I don't know, 48 hours until you can pick it up and get home. So it's
Yeah.
just to stop people from buying a gun impulsively and shooting someone.
Yeah.
Um, but here it's literally the same thing. You just hand it in a form. The only difference is there's more bureaucracy here, as in you fill out the form. Yeah, this is a gun I want to buy. You send it to the police station. They send it back to you signed, and then you can go buy a gun with that,
Yeah.
or with whatever gun you
Little more
requested.
bureaucracy.
It's literally, instead of just the gun store having access to the database themselves to check if you're a criminal, it's
Yeah.
the police checks if you're a criminal.
Yeah. We
It's
have
so
something
it's
kind of similar in Idaho where you get your concealed carry license, like a permit, and you
yeah,
can buy guns without a background check. It's just like
yeah.
the police do that work beforehand, give you a little card saying like, "Hey, you're okay," and you can just walk in and walk out without doing the background check because it's assumed the criminals. I mean, the police
Mm,
have
mm.
already done it for you.
We as one thing we cannot have here, and you really
Yep,
can't, is a concealed. You can't have a weapon carrying license. You
that's
can't have that
unfortunate.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's you can get it in very rare cases if there's an active threat against you,
yeah,
or if you work in like security, and
Mm.
like that's part of the job. But that's the only. But no one ever gets it. And to be honest, I don't think you really need it,
yeah.
because you can just, because I've never been in a police checkup. Would you believe? Never. I have been, like, as in I've never been arrested or detained, or like how should I say, stopped by police. As I've interacted with them, but you can have, you never get checked. They don't
Hmm.
have the right to check you here. They can say, yeah, we're going to check you now because we're suspicion that you committed a crime, and they have to give you the evidence, then say this is the evidence, we're going to check you now. But other than that, they just can't. And they need separate warrants for your backpacks and then your
Hmm.
person. it's it's
Huh.
it's kind of weird. So
Switzerland
you could,
actually seems like a pretty cool place in terms of civil liberties for Europe. Like I
well,
have to
yeah,
put
yeah,
the
yeah,
caveat
yeah,
on there for like
100%. For Europe, yes, but
yeah,
there's the other side of it where it's illegal to put your trash, like your trash from home, into a public trash can, and you can get fined multiple $100 for that. You have that other side too, where
yeah,
it's like the strict
the
Swiss
gay
society.
mom politics.
Exactly. Or dog taxes. If you have a dog, you have to pay taxes on it. Doesn't count for cats, which is a disgrace. And another thing which annoys me almost the most is just the license for everything, dude. Like everything. This is nothing. You can't do
You got a
anything.
license for that?
Want to
Shit
record a
is.
music?
Wait,
Exactly. Yeah. It's
to record music, you need a license?
record a music video in
Oh,
public, license.
yeah.
uh you want to do like protest license, or not a license, just we call it Bewilligung in German, and it's like an allowance, or a permit. Yeah, permit, that's it.
Oh, a
Yeah, yeah,
permit to protest.
yeah, permits, exactly. And
That
like,
doesn't sound like much of a protest.
Yeah,
exactly,
that's actually like really bad.
like, there was this protest in Zurich. It was announced it had a permit, but there was counter protest, and the counter protest didn't have a permit to counter protest. So the counter protesters got in trouble. But then they went a few weeks later to protest that they got in trouble for the protest. It was a whole joke. And it was, it's like permits for everything, for fishing, for my little brother, well, civil liberties. My little brother had a few drinks too much to drink at some night a few months back, and he decided it would be a good time at 2 o'clock in the morning to go for a jog. And so it was summer, and he went jogging shirtless. So he was running, and he got stopped by police. And the next thing he phones me, yeah, Donagh, I'm here.
Wait, did he get arrested for running shirtless or
Not arrested, detained. But they stopped him and they said they wouldn't allow him running any further because he's shirtless and he's obviously drunk. So they just stopped him there. So he had two choices: either someone picks him up and brings him home, or they bring him to the police station into a drunk cell. And like to me, it's your God given right if you want to go jogging drunk. You know, like you have that other side where Switzerland is very orderly, and you can do anything you want as long as it's orderly. You know what I mean? So as soon as you start
You are
making
close to
noise,
Germany after all.
oh yeah, I'm like it's the frog's leap away. 20 minutes. I go shopping there because it's cheaper sometimes. Yeah, yeah. So it's a funny place, you know. But you know, we also have worlds where we have access to the internet and we see what else is going on. So where the things that are going well, we consider ourselves fortunate, but other things, yeah.
Yeah.
My main takeaway from this show is that like being shirtless in Switzerland is like a major problem. Like just
And
don't
Yeah,
do
Germany,
it.
because if women
Yeah.
can't do it, you
yeah,
have to be respectful.
yeah, yeah. It's literally. I guess people Swiss people don't like anything that's extravagant. Is that the word?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that is out of the norm, they don't like that. They're just inherently skeptical of it. That neutrality that we're known for, that's like in our blood.
It's
You know, like
cultural.
Keep it down
Yeah.
here. None of
exactly,
that. Not up to 11. Down at a 4 at
exactly,
most.
exactly, and that goes for
And
any aspect of life. Any.
oh,
Mm,
We've also noticed, and this is like a real callback to near the beginning of this episode, where you're talking about like how one of your most popular, if not your most popular countries, you know, like England
mm.
and the UK, Germany, the United States, all of that. We've actually
I have it in
found,
front of me here.
yeah,
United States, Germany, UK, Canada, Australia, Sweden.
yeah,
wow, that is bang on the money.
yeah, bang on the fucking money. We have access to our haptics too, and our most popular, like thousands and thousands of viewers and listeners and stuff, are from like Los Angeles and New York, and specifically in America, like the
Hmm.
most restrictive places. And then after that, going down, I think country wise, we've got Canada and the UK and Australia, and then Germany. Yeah, it's similar. It's similar.
Yeah, there's obviously something going on in these places, you know.
Yeah,
Like countries we really don't get like Spain and Italy, and you know Spain is a big metal country too, but they just can't
really.
be bothered. I think those guys are just too busy doing siesta or something to be bothered. You know, like you realize this when you're in Europe. The Southern Europeans are just like at least half as chill, or just twice as chill. Sorry, as Northern Europeans in every aspect of life. You know, they just don't know rushing. You know,
That's true.
they really do. And the warmer the place is, also it seems the less popular we get. So the more where it's cold and miserable in the winter, that's really where we shine.
Now, I will give the Spaniards props on the whole Catalonian independence thing. Like, they went pretty hard for that. Like, really briefly, they like kicked off, and then the government cracked them over the head and dragged grandmas out of voting booths, and they were like, "All
Mm.
right, never mind."
Yeah, back to siesta.
Yeah, back to
Back to see
siesta.
That's pretty
um,
much what's going on here, yeah.
one thing I wanted to ask about kind of the military service thing, like has the band ever come up in like the because it's mandatory service, right? Like you
Yeah,
guys will have to
yeah.
do a little. So has it ever been brought up like the band stuff to do with that, or are they completely ignorant?
I don't think they're ignorant. I think I think that they think as long as I'm part of the army and I'm like proudly serving my country, they're like, yeah, he can't be that bad, you
Yeah,
know, yeah. Because in
Like
my opinion, there's only one. The military is the last in Switzerland, at least, the last government institution that somewhat works and somewhat is doing its job well because they're
really.
budgeted down to shit. Yeah, seriously. Like, okay, obviously they have the regular bullshit army stuff, you know, wasting resources and all that.
Yeah,
And
that's every army.
you got it's every army. That's just an army thing. But you know, at least the people who are there are somewhat, proud to do what they're doing, and they see like a sort of um I mean, obviously, we're a peacetime army, right? And it's sort of, if you want peace, prepare for war sort of attitude that's going on
Yeah,
there.
it's what we were talking about earlier. The whole like peaceful, not harmless, and like
Yeah,
really
exactly.
giving dudes an outlet to be capable and to like really learn how to be lethal. Whether
Mm,
it's to varying degrees of success depending on what military and what unit you're a part of. But it's all an outlet to basically I always say men have like such a few basic responsibilities on this earth. Like we really don't
mm,
have much that we need to get right, but being capable of like being a protector is a big
mm.
one of those.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
and the, of any part of the government, the military is the only of any government workers. It's like really the only healthy outlet for
It
that kind of
is.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
100%. And even just being inside of a barracks surrounded by
yep,
dudes, being able to say whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah.
There's just no filter, shouting and roaring and violence, and it's just a man's world. And I guess that's why I kind of, first of all, I kind of like it, and second of all, I see the advantage it has to Swiss society. But to answer your initial question, I did want to become a sergeant at some point, which is basically voluntarily becoming, yeah, ranking up. And they basically, the commanding officer there, he said to me, "Yeah, look, with what you're doing privately, and so I don't think that'll be possible." I never tried it
Ah,
initially, but
that
here's the thing:
sucks.
this continues though. Just recently, I got an offer to become a press and information officer for the army.
that
So
sounds like a propagandist position.
Yeah.
pretty much it is literally like, in a case of war, it'd be in a position where I'd in the communication channels, and all that, would be like central and all that, which is basically, yeah, this was just this one CEO thinking something wrong, but initially you play your cards right, and you just show that you're into this, and then they don't care, because you're standing there, you're wearing a Swiss flag, and that's all they really care about. I'm not
Yeah.
talking any dumb shit there. But it was funny when my brother joined, and he's serving right now. He At the interview, he got asked, "Yeah, do you have anything to do with music, with your brother's band?" And he said, "No, not really. I've been to a few of their shows, but other than that, nothing." I said, "All right." That was the end of it. That was just a quick question.
Let's
So
keep it that way.
they just asked him. They just basically, I'm on their radar. I
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
Enough
But
to come up in conversation with other
exactly.
people.
But like, I'm surrounded by high-ranking people in the army every time I'm there, so uh, I'm not a threat, So, and they know that, so it's a weird. That's what I'm saying. It's a weird thing in Switzerland where you can kind of say this stuff, and you guys know this yourselves, being army lads. There's nothing. There's no. The army is the the government institution that complains the most about the government is the army, 100%.
Oh,
Like
absolutely. It's
they,
why in the States you end up on a watch list when you get out because they're like the number one route to radicalization is military, do some shit, leave, stew on it for a little bit, and then go out and do some things.
I
exactly.
went to the gun shop with one of my next door neighbors, um, and
Hmm.
he wanted to buy his first gun, just like a Glock 43X or 48 or something. And we got to the 4473 part, and he never bought a gun before, and he gets delayed, and we talk about it with the fella, and it
Hmm.
turns out it was due to his military service.
You think
Um,
those guys would
Just
be like,
gotta see.
we
Oh,
also
sorry.
noticed a correlation between our friends getting visited, like people knocking on their door, and military service. It's always the
Oh,
guys who served in the military first. Like
yeah,
they're watched so much closer. Which you're absolutely right. It's awful that we as a country, and many countries treat people who you know, but I do think that like working for the government in any capacity, especially one where you perform violence, is
mm,
a road to radicalization, because you'll very quickly be like, oh shit, wow,
yeah.
what
everything
the
has changed.
fuck is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a key difference, I think, between Swiss military and and other ones is like, okay, of course, Americans, you might get sent off to war, you might be deployed in Afghanistan. I don't know if you've been deployed, but you
Oh,
eventually come back, and then the government just kind of forgets about you.
yeah,
But
very much.
here's different. When you're in the army here, it's kind of a lifelong thing. Yes, you leave your service when you're 30, but you're still in the reserves until you're out of army age, basically, when you have to keep your gear at home.
Yeah,
But that's the thing, to keeping gear at home. When you once you leave, the government gives you that gun, and they're like, okay, we're trusting you with this, and being a caveman, you're like, ooga booga, I must not disappoint. So it's kind of a weird sort of trust. Like we've only had ever one mass shooting with service related rifles, one,
yeah.
and well, one mass shooting in general. This was 25 years ago. A guy shot up some parliament with an army gun, and
I
it
mean,
was
of any place where you're gonna go,
like they didn't let him into the shooting range, so no, but I hate to speak ill of the dead, but like this thing has happened once, but it just shows that it works. The government is taking a big risk by giving almost every young man a fully functioning killing machine. But instead of thinking that they're going to act irresponsibly, the opposite happens. That these men act responsibly with these guns. They're
Yeah,
like, this is my, I'm proud of this, and that I think that's what something a lot of armies could learn from.
yeah,
It's just, instead of sending your soldiers off to war, letting them do their service, and then sending them home, forgetting about them. How about you sort of like, what's happening in America with the VA is a disgrace, and
it is.
the way veterans are treated, and that obviously, if you're in that sort of situation, especially if I just saw a video the other day about some former soldier who saw combat in Iraq. He's saying weird shit online, and eventually he lost his shit. And well, they arrested him and that. And it's like,
Yeah,
of course you're going to get radicalized. You did all this shit. You come home and you look around you and you realize how shit is fucked.
yeah,
I mean, Lee Harvey Oswald, military background.
yeah,
Uh, Pretty sure the guy who shot at Trump, the second guy, had a military background too.
yeah,
I'm not sure. I mean,
yeah,
this happens in all different kinds of ways. All these
yeah.
crazy people.
And like a lot of people we've even brought on the show, not to like
Mm,
self bloviate or anything, have been really, really intelligent, anti-state people who've been radicalized against the government, and a lot of them, like a
former
statistically
government
huge amount, have been
employees.
military. Yeah,
Yep.
like
mm,
it's been a ton of people have been military, and I think a lot of that too is like you're fed something that turns out to be patently false. It's kind of like the gun thing. It's like you see
mm,
you've been being lied to about this one thing, then oh shit, what else is a lie?
mm-hmm.
With the military, it's like, oh shit, like your entire worldview is a lie, and now they're just going to treat you like shit. Like you've been
Yeah,
taught one
exactly.
thing. I think Switzerland does a good job, and I think this would like I have
I think we
really
have no combat, right? So it's
yeah
it's it's peacetime anyways. So
yeah
military service is really just shooting at targets and getting yelled at.
yeah.
You know.
So I have like really nebulous views about the idea of mandatory service because
mm,
like I think if I agreed with it on a fundamental level, it would be a net positive for society having like people either do mandatory service, or if they were didn't want to do that, they would join the fire service or go do something
yeah,
like
yeah.
pro social. And I think countries that have that, like Finland and South Korea and whatnot, like you can really tell in their populace that they're like there's a social cohesion that just doesn't exist here. But that being said,
Hmm.
on like a moral and fundamental level of being like, wow, we should not give the government that like that would be a
Yeah,
Yeah.
so fucking bad.
it
No, it
sucks
Yeah,
because
works.
here.
It works on a
yeah,
small scale.
Yeah,
Like Switzerland has 9 million people. Finland has about the same.
yeah,
South Korea a bit more, 25 or 50 million, something like that.
yeah,
It works on a smaller scale, and especially if you're a country that's kind of geographically isolated and geopolitically not involved so much. Switzerland very neutral. Finland, they joined NATO now, but you guys in America with your history of, let's say, democratizing the world,
yeah,
it's kind of not compatible, and you guys know that with mandatory service becomes probable deployment.
Yeah,
You know,
we're going
and
to go spread freedom somewhere. Let's go
mhm,
find some brown kids in rice paddies or deserts to hit with
yeah, exactly,
several $1 million worth of ordnance each bomb that drops. Um,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, and it's
it's
happening again. We're going to get in another we're already in another forever war. Who am I kidding?
which one?
Are you?
They're
The
bombing
one in Southeast
one,
Asia, the
the
return to
Houthis,
Afghanistan, or the
the
one in Europe?
a whole lots. I was hoping, but there goes me having hope again that things would change, and then they didn't.
Well,
What do you mean return to Afghanistan? Did I miss
Oh,
something?
yeah,
oh, you haven't seen
the Taliban is
react.
having America come back and occupy a base. This one's apparently, supposedly, requested by the Taliban.
Yeah, so
Seriously.
it's not like a war on terror thing. It's we don't trust China, and that's kind of why we wanted to be in the Middle East in the first place, was so we could stage for both Iran and China. So
Mm,
they're returning, they're working out some kind of fucking devil's handshake deal with the Taliban where we can get Bagram airbase back. So that's kind of weird, but
That is
hey ho.
super.
Yeah,
Imagine
the
if we,
world keeps turning.
as
isn't
weird as
that
it
such a
sounds,
Trump
we
thing to
listened to,
do?
yeah.
The
Imagine if we listened
Taliban, they're
to the
not bad people.
A matter of fact, they're my telebros.
Taliban. Do a weirdly good Trump impression.
Oh God, I've been practicing a lot lately
That
because
would
I've been
that would do for a good bit. Side note,
we're work.
good song title, No Political Solutions. Um,
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's
yeah,
actually gonna steal that right now.
got
Let's
to
see, we're
be.
trying to get the US visa at the moment, and
I
it's
so
fucked, man. It's
that
like
was my
sixteen
next
hundred
question.
each. Yeah, go
What?
ahead. Go ahead.
$1,600?
Are
Holy
you
fuck.
fucking
Hmm.
serious?
For a person, and that doesn't mean you're gonna get accepted.
Yeah. Oh
Jesus,
fuck, that's just to apply. So
that's
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say like what our audience would kill me if I didn't ask was like, are we gonna see Xonor in the States anytime soon? I know it's a hell of a monster to take down the
Hmm.
US
yeah.
for a
Oh
tour,
yeah.
but what's that look like for you guys?
Well, we've been talking to a promoter, and he set up 5 dates in California for January 2026.
Hell yeah.
However, the we've looked into we've talked to a lawyer about the visa process, and it looks like it's too big of a risk. 6 grand, and there's the thing is, look, we've gained some popularity, and we definitely fill up some shows there. But the if you look at the things you have to, what's the word, the US visas, to get the visa you have to have certain requirements, and we don't meet those requirements word for word. I guess we don't have any major news outlets in America talking about us, something like that, and it's
What?
it's
Oh,
so
for
dumb.
entertainment? Oh,
Yeah, exactly,
hmm.
and it's like, okay, if it was $200 each, we'd be like, yeah, let's try it. But
Yeah, yeah.
1,600, man, like, whew, so we're trying to see if we can come in and play. We're talking to a lawyer about this too, and if we can come in under the charity concept, basically. So
That would
basically, we
not be
wouldn't
a
earn
bad
any
idea,
money.
actually.
Exactly, but that comes with another. Even if we do that, we might show up, and the border guards might say, "No, you're not doing that.
Yeah,
You're faking something." So they might send us home on the next returning flight. So I guess you could say 2026 is most likely going to have Xonor in America. It's in some way
that'd
or
be
another.
Hmm.
very very
Yeah,
cool, and I would try and make my way out for that.
that'd
Oh,
be
I would, yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, go
We'd love
shoot
to have
machine
you.
guns in the desert, something.
Oh, man,
It,
see, that's the thing. We can shoot here, but we can't. There's no open areas like
yeah,
deserts you can just blast into. So
Oh,
it's kind
we
of like a dream of mine.
yeah.
So
if you guys make it to the US somewhere
Oh,
we can facilitate, we will do some silly shit in the middle of nowhere.
actually, we have like an
hell yeah.
annual meetup kind of thing, and like smaller ones over the year, where we just like hold it at a big range or just like public land or something.
Oh,
And can you hear my dog right now? Like
I just heard the whistle. Yeah.
just a
Yeah, yeah.
weird.
Maple's like, all right, guys, let's.
She's dead
I need
ass.
attention.
It's like
Uh,
a weird.
Oh,
She's like eating something in her sleep or something. But yeah, no. If you could make it out for something like that, we could make a really good time happen. I think.
I shouldn't have a problem getting a tourist visa.
Hell
So
yeah.
Hey, whether you're here professionally or personally, like we'll absolutely facilitate if you're stateside. So you know,
100%.
keep us in the loop. But
Yeah.
we might take you up on that. That's awesome. We've really drifted into that scene. Like we've talked to like the whole actual goon thing.
Yeah.
It
yep.
started off with just dudes taking creative pictures with these balaclavas, and that kind of really inspired me to move it into a musical direction. And a lot of our followers, like Anti-State, is a follower. Don't know if you guys know the band Havoc.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Their singer is a follower, and they said if they're coming to Europe, they're bringing us with them on
that's
tour and
awesome.
stuff. So
Hell yeah.
we're really slipping into that and
Yeah,
hoping that we can build our network. So,
that's awesome.
uh,
I hope Andy State comes back. I did a bunch of their designs like back in the day, like rooftop voter and things like that. I know they closed their shop for a little while, so I'm hoping they relaunch somehow.
do you do
Yeah.
all the design stuff on your Instagram?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Most
Yeah,
of what
I
you
Nathan.
love.
see on my Instagram is not my professional work. My professional work would be like you probably seen in some of it in like Annie State, Operational Industries, like
Okay,
Geisley, Reptilia, people like that, and Otter Creek Labs in the gun world, but kind of just all over the place.
it's cool, man. Because I really love the style you guys are going for with the. It's just that comic style. I
No,
just
thanks,
really
man.
love.
That stuff's like very specifically for the page. There's a couple others that I'd like to post, but I try not to like to diversify the brand too much, just so people recognize it.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like we just released this song Monkey Mosh, and
Yeah,
I could just really tell the difference between the way it was received compared to our last song, which is called Race War Lügenpresse, and it's like we've really the I can tell what the people want nowadays.
yeah,
They want more of that goon shit, and
yes,
they don't want deep political, not deep political, deep philosophical lyrics.
yeah.
Hey,
I
Monkey
mean,
Mosh.
I think,
oh, no,
but
like
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's both. Like I like both. Like
Yeah, I
I
like
Same,
both.
love like
same.
standing on business and telling people what you're about, and then also just like we're also fucking cavemen, and we just like to go fucking buck wild and
Yeah,
return to monkey. Like
yeah.
both are
Pretty
good.
You can
much.
have both, and
But a
like
bit of
I think
both is good.
an important part to being true to yourself and like God,
Yeah.
this 100% sabotages us, but I don't care. Is don't pay too close attention to the numbers. Like
Oh
you'll,
yeah, yeah.
the things that have mass appeal can sometimes like cheat yourself in terms of
Mm, mm.
like your actual vision, I guess. That sounds super pretentious
That's
coming out of my mouth.
no, but but you're right because the thing is, I do obsess with numbers,
Yeah,
and I've made it my little goal in 2025 to sort of keep it under control. I'm not going to say I'm not going to look at them at all. I'm going to be like, it. And I've been obsessed too much with numbers like stream counts and follower counts and stuff like that. But
yeah,
rather, I need to be focusing like on who can I work with, who
yes,
can I, you know. Who can get us further, and maybe in return I can get them further. I've been thinking of doing stuff like collaborations, not only inside of metal, so brand associations like you guys. I'm sure you guys know Goon Tape
yes,
and
Yep.
yeah. I got some in my Glock right here.
Ally Threads.
Yeah,
Yeah, so those guys messaged me too. They want us to come out as well to one of their events and all that. So I'm really trying to, how should I say, keep those relationships, and see where they head, because obviously this whole thing is gonna pull us to the States eventually. It's just a matter of
yeah,
time.
I mean, when you're singing about killdozer and murdering the government, like of course Americans are gonna be clamoring for you.
Oh
oh,
yeah,
100%.
it's great, man, and I love it. It's like it's I've always felt like sort of more connected to the US than anything like Central Europe had to offer,
Yes,
just through the internet, and
yeah.
my attitude.
And it's
So
It's
so much better in real life. I can't stress that enough. God, it's so good coming from two transplants.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, seeing as it is us, a Euro trash and a Canadian who left home to move to the States, it's something I do have to ask. Like, do you think yourself or Xonor would ever make the move to the States permanently?
if my wife wasn't a big fan of the States too, I'd have to say no. But she is. She every sometimes we go on Google Maps and we just look at the place. You know what I mean? Like you go on Street View, it's just like wow, look, we'll be in the middle of buttfuck Pennsylvania somewhere. You know, 20, 20, 20 houses in a little village, but there's a KFC.
Yes.
And
Oh, that's peak
The
America.
American dream.
it's just lovely. Like I do prefer the rural US over that
Yes.
city stuff.
You,
And
My
that's the
God,
thing.
it's so
You you
nice.
you can actually like don't get me wrong, there's wilderness in Europe, but like there is fucking wilderness in the US.
yeah,
And if
yeah,
like the truth of anyone who's anti-authoritarian is it's a matter of getting resources to your front door to infringe on you. And
yeah,
when
yeah, yeah.
when you can really get the fuck away from everyone, which you cannot do in the UK, you can do it in
No.
Canada, but ultimately it's a
Yeah.
shithole society. Like you can
Yeah.
actually get away from the problem, no matter what crazy politics are going on in the world. In the US, you
Yeah.
can actually remove yourself enough from it where it's like, fuck you, dude. We're going tribal out here. I don't care what's going on out there. So
Oh,
That's what it
100%.
seems like looking from the outside. It seems like you have two completely different worlds
Oh,
inside the
completely.
US.
I'd go as far to say that like there's like 50 different worlds, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
like what you see on
I
the
think
internet is not indicative of most of them. It's like if you
yeah.
really wanted to go full, like you only buy food from farmers, you're living off the land, you are as close to sustainment as you possibly can be. You can actually
Your
do that.
your children don't have a social security number. Yeah, it's all very possible.
Yeah, we
that's
we know a guy
crazy.
out here. He's like pretty close to me. He's a big YouTuber now, oddly, which is strange. As he's just like the coolest and most humble guy, modern rural civilian. He's been on this show, and that's
Modern
exactly what he
civilian,
did. He just moved to rural Idaho, and he just built a homestead because he could,
okay.
and he just lives on it with his,
I
his
love that so much.
yeah, and it's beautiful. I've been there. He's got goats, a whole farm. The Idaho winters don't slow him down at all. He just keeps on going.
Idaho, I can assume. Well, it's more. What's the landscape like? And I've been there, but sometimes the Google Maps will sort of lie to you. It's
It's kind of
mostly
like every biome. Like
yeah, yeah.
like the in the south, it's like desert, like dry,
Mm,
and then it's mountains. Go the further north you go, like there's mountains and McCall and all of that. Then you get up to northern Idaho, kind of where I am, and it's woods, like hills, woods, rolling plains, farmland, and there's basically every biome except for like tundra, and there even is swampland
Swamp.
here.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Um,
oh, you guys stretch all the way up to the Canadian border, I think.
yeah, you can just drive there. My
Oh,
family drove down to see me a couple months ago, and my mom, who's like, "Oh no, like this place is terrible. I don't know why you'd ever go here." By the time she leaves, she's shopping for properties.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing. You're right. There's an actual wild wilderness in America,
yeah,
and I've always loved that. I just drop into random places
yeah.
all over especially I gotta say to me, I I don't know. I kind of got inspired by this by watching the series Ozark. Maybe you guys know
Oh
it.
yes, I love that
Yeah.
show.
And I didn't know until I saw that it was like really fucking hot in Missouri in the summer. You
Yeah,
know, you're talking. You guys have Fahrenheit, I assume, but
yeah.
well, you
Oh,
guys
we
both know
both know
Celsius.
Celsius.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My car
And
still has all the metric and the Celsius and all of that. So
oh,
that's actually how I learned Fahrenheit, is just like having a vague idea of what temperature it was and seeing the Celsius number in my car.
oh, yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of lower. Like, it's kind of how I learned a little bit of Russian just by, you know,
Just
figure. I guess
osmosis.
you guys. I'm sure you guys know Escape from Tarkov, the
Oh
game.
oh yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the ultimate. Some people only play that game single player just because of the gun customization and all that,
Yeah.
and that's I kind of picked up on some Russian there, and I kind of got an interest into it. And next thing you know, I can read Cyrillic just by listening to what they're saying and looking what's there.
That's awesome.
Already, yeah,
Tarkov
It's a
is
cool
such
ass
like an
language.
on border
Yeah.
into gun culture too.
it is right. I think some guy even there's some murder documentary out there about some guy who played Tarkov and he killed some guy with the gun, like with the real life example of a gun he had in Tarkov or something.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah. Thought his parents were scavs or something. Yeah, it's yeah.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. No, it's rough. I think
Yeah.
so. Just I've been getting a lot into these not these true crime videos on YouTube, but the ones where it's mostly like based on the interrogation footage and they read like body language and stuff,
Yeah.
you know. and I've been watching way too many of them, so I know all sorts of murder stories that are going on.
Man, they're
Yeah.
weirdly addicting. All I binge now is just like true crime, and I feel like a white woman, and horror, just steady diet of like fucked up, usually like cosmic or serial killer horror. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm totally well adjusted.
Yeah, it's desensitizing, man. Like I grew up in an age where, I mean, you guys aren't that much older than I am now, but the I don't know, live leak videos just
Oh
Yeah.
started
yeah,
spinning around. Once
Yeah.
once social media became so, or not social media, like WhatsApp and everything became so popular that yeah, live leaks videos started to leak into the normie
yeah.
platforms. And yeah, I mean, I was like 14 when I saw my first decapitation video, and
Oh yeah,
it's never been
Yeah.
the same ever since. It's changes, a man,
If you're in
yeah,
your 20s or 30s, like at some point in your teen years, you saw either or both a cartel execution or an ISIS
Mm.
execution. It's
yeah,
it's just part of like how we're all raised, for better
yeah.
or
Actually, the
worse.
thing is,
Weirdly,
not
we're
so.
pretty good at dodging them.
Actually, you used to be surprised how many people haven't like
Yeah,
seen any of that.
except on
I
February 26th on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
The yeah, that I remember that day. Yeah, that was weird.
that was super
All these
weird, and I
car
still
crashes.
kind of wonder what happened. Cartel Instagram.
I didn't see that. I completely like everyone else was like, dude, did you see what's going on Instagram? I'm like, yeah, guns and punk rock, like kind of
Yeah,
same as usual, and
yeah. I
Warhammer
was gonna
40K.
say like I hadn't logged on the entire day, which is pretty standard for me. And
Yeah.
I got home. Buddy of mine came by to like pick up some gun shit, and he's like, "Hey, do you know what's going on Instagram?" I'm like, "No." He pulls out his phone, scrolls down his news feed, opens his For You, and it's immediately just like a dude getting crushed by like one of those cement pounding machines. Like, oh, I
Oh,
didn't
for
want to watch
fuck's
that today,
sake.
but
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it was bad. And
Yeah,
a guy being crushed by an elephant, and you're just sitting there mesmerized.
like, oh, well, that sucks, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
I have a thing in my brain where I will automatically just like close Instagram if I have to see another fucking drone execution.
Yeah,
It's
Oh
seriously,
yeah.
it's yeah.
It's
like
it's
it makes
actually
me kind of
tragic
sad.
about war that
Yeah,
those videos are actually boring to me now, because
yeah,
they're like it's just so. And I know a bunch of Ukrainians because I don't know if you knew this, but we as a band we've played there since the
Yeah,
beginning of the
right.
war,
really,
Yeah, right at the start. Like that.
pretty
Before
much.
we go, you mind like sharing a little bit on that? Because I meant to bring it up, and I was literally just thinking of it the second you said the drone
yeah.
thing.
Holy
Like, how
shit, we
how'd
Yeah,
we
that
are
yeah.
go
on
down?
time. We're double time for what we planned.
Right?
I'm
Definitely, yeah, but it's been interesting so far to me. But I hope I wasn't yapping too much about
No,
all
no, no.
sorts. Well, see, basically, we had for February 2022, we had our first tour planned in Ukraine. February 2022, it was, and well, you know what happened. Everyone knows what happened. Then the tour gets cancelled, but when you're organizing tours and stuff, you get to meet a lot of people. You know the bands that you're going to be performing with and all that. So we met a whole bunch of people, and basically we also did a whole like humanitarian action thing where we drove to the Ukrainian border and basically with a crowd-funded car, like a bus, and we brought people, refugees, to Switzerland or wherever they needed to go. It was just a lot of charity workers there, and we just figured we'll do our part. And
That's sick.
we the yeah, so basically that happened, and then we also helped this kid who's 17, and it turns out then he was the organizer of the Destroyer Fest in Kiev, and he fled to Germany with his girlfriend, him 16, she's 16, and we basically helped them get a little bit settled in Germany once they arrived.
That's
And
fucking awesome.
he basically said, look, dude, once it's safer again, Do you want to go back down?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure." Once it's safe for me, thinking, okay, once like maybe the airstrikes have stopped and that. And then for a while in the summer of 2022, it was kind of okay. So we say, "Hey, do you want to come down in October?" I was like, "Yeah, just there hasn't been a major attack on Kiev in the last few weeks, so should be fine." We went down, and then October started closing up. Next thing you know, largest missile strike on Kiev. Like this is 2 days or 3 days before we were meant to go.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
and then yeah, the missile strike happened, and then we were there sitting as a band, like, are we going to go? And then two guys chickened out, so we had to find session musicians. And then one guy, Luca, he, you won't believe this because this is such a bass player thing. He forgot to take days off work because he thought we were leaving a day later, so he couldn't leave with me. So I had to go there on my own and play the show with session musicians in October 2022. It was weird, man, but it was such a surreal feeling, with these fucking airstrikes going on. And I went back as a tourist in 2023 just to meet my friends again who I saw there. Yeah, and then we went back again in 2024, and it's just the same story every single time, airstrikes. And I'm glad because I gained a lot of dad lore during going down there, because you can imagine when I
Very
went down.
important.
Yeah.
Very, very important, very important. Like I was in his bus, and the bus was full of women. It's just me and about 50 women in this bus crossing from Poland into Ukraine. And well, usually they let the buses go through, but because there was a dude in the bus, they had to question me. So they basically brought me. None of them spoke any English or German or anything. Just basically, what I good thing I already knew a bit of German then, Russian then, and basically told, "Look, I'm playing a concert. Here's my guitar. Here's my band, and this and that." And they didn't understand shit. I didn't understand shit. So eventually, they just let me in. Poor bastards. And it
When the
was
closest thing you can speak to a Ukrainian is Russian as well. Like,
exactly.
fuck.
They all speak Russian there,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
though
yeah.
they.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, and well, yeah. Basically, I can say proudly that I've slept through like drone attacks and everything. Like, didn't even wake up. Like my friend recalls this one time. It was very late at night, and we were all sleeping. We all had a few drinks and everything, and it was one of my last days being in Kiev. And then there was a huge drone strike, one of the biggest in the last few months. They said in the news later, and essentially the window was open, and my friend heard the drones outside. Zzz, the sounds, and these were these Iranian ones, these big ones. And basically, what he was walking into the living room where I was sleeping, and then next thing he looks out the window and he sees a big flash. And him being in the war zone for the last year or two, he knows, yeah, there's about to be a boom. he said it was the loudest explosion he had heard in the entire war. And then he went in to check on me, and I was apparently just. So that's some dad lore I got there.
Hell
But
yeah.
it's you know people, we got local news, not local, Swiss newspapers writing about me or about us going down, and it was kind of like it's one of those situations where we figured out, how many bands can say they did this? How many bands, were in support of Ukraine?
Yeah.
Almost all of them, right? But how many bands will actually put themselves into a difficult situation? So I really saw an opportunity to, first off, to show my actual support, um, and second of all, it was like, I kind of felt bad for all these dudes. I mean, I know dudes now who died in that war, so it hits close to home, and I just kind of wanted to show these people, if you guys feel safe staying in the country that's bombarded every day, then what sort of a pussy am I if I say I don't want to come?
Yeah.
If especially if there's millions of women staying there, then I can't be, a man and say, "Oh, I'm scared." Like it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
felt wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, that's
I-
cool, dude.
I
That's
actually love that. Yeah. That's putting your
excellent
money where
dad
your mouth
lore.
is. Yeah.
it is.
It's prime, like top tier dad lore.
Well, glad you see it that way, because my wife sees it as you fucking idiot. Why do you have
Yeah.
to keep
Oh
doing
well, of
dumb
course
shit?
that's their job. The amount of excellent
Literally
dad lore that I'll proudly recount, and then my fiance is like, "That was fucking stupid." I'm like, "Yeah, correct."
Correct. You know
But I
what? And
lived, and now I can talk about it.
exactly.
every once in a while, I still get a message from or something from one of my dad's family members on my Irish side, and they tell me story about my dad. And like just recently, I found out that he apparently got himself and a bunch of his cousins arrested by when the cops walked by. He did like pig sounds, and he got into a fight with them and basically got arrested.
Was that in
So
Ireland or was that
this
like?
this is in Ireland,
I
yeah.
was going to say you fought the Garda.
Yeah, fuck the Garda, and
Based.
the whole cop killer, song cop killer story is based on a situation. Um, well, basically, my dad's uncle got murdered, and he there was a we to this day we don't know who did it because the police got rid of evidence and took a
Oh,
bribe, and
That points a certain way.
yeah.
exactly. So, and I dedicated the music video and the song to him, to Jim Goonan, who died. Ironically, his surname was Goonan.
Yeah.
You know,
Again, based. Hell yeah.
exactly.
In the blood.
So is the entire that side of the family was very happy about the song Cop Killer because they really. I
They
mean, obviously, it's
resonated
not a
with it.
beautiful. Yeah, exactly. They
Yeah.
just kind of, I guess it's sort of in my family. So every time I think back, like as I said in the beginning, I always think, yeah, I believe these things because I thought them through and everything. But sometimes I just think, yeah, I might just be leaning towards this because as a kid or my family, like a lot of the outside influences that I couldn't control. So, yeah, we're all products of our environment, I'd say.
Yeah.
That is very true, for better or worse.
Mm,
Well, mate, we're 2 hours in, and it's probably
Yes.
like
hell
what
yeah,
3 a.m. where you're at.
Yeah. I
it's
really
exactly
appreciate
3
you
a.m. Yeah.
staying up with
Holy
us.
fuck!
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no,
I'm
it
kind
was
of flew.
class, lads. Like, thanks for having me on,
No,
and
of course. And
thank you
I
for coming on, man.
glad for giving
yeah.
me a platform to speak freely.
No,
And
I really appreciate you you agreeing to come on. And if there's ever a launch or an album or something like that, and you want to come on again, talk about it, hang out a little longer. I don't know, trade more dad lore. You
hell
are always
yeah!
welcome.
Actually, we were releasing our next song that we're releasing is called Waco.
Yes,
Hey, there we go.
So maybe we'll have something to talk about there.
hell
But
yes.
I wish I could I'd love to give you guys a free listen, but I don't think there's a little tool here I could let you. No, I can't. Well,
You,
that's just gonna have to wait, I suppose.
you're
No
okay.
worries.
You're
We'll do our part on sharing that on the story. I'm sure when it comes
That'd be
out. But
awesome, man.
uh, before you go, we got two things. So one, is there anything? Where can we find Xonor? And is there anything else you want to kind of share with the people before we get out of here?
Oh yeah. Well, you can find us pretty much anywhere under the tag Xonor or Xonor Band, mostly Xonor Band, and TikTok is Xonor Band Official. It's spelled Xonor, not with a Z, with an X. The name doesn't mean anything. It's just a bad graphic designer who made the logo. Well, I'm the graphic designer who made the logo.
I
It
like it.
used
I
to
think
be
you
an
did a
H.
good job.
Thank you, thank you. It was supposed to be an H though, but now it's we changed it to an X in 2023 because people kept calling us Zonor instead of Honor.
like
Like
fuck it, that's what it is now.
that's what it is now. So yeah, we're well, I don't need to explain what we're about. I think you've heard a lot, but I'm very happy to have spoken to these guys. Message us, and hopefully we'll be in the US very soon.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Awesome,
And
man.
then last thing
Last
before we
thing.
get out of here, it's the
Yes.
only gotcha in the whole show. But speaking of
Oh,
dad lore, we ask every guest that comes on the show to share some dad advice with the audience, as if they are your hopeful children gazing into your eyes, looking for some kind of guidance. So,
okay. Oh, this is going to get me some hate.
Oh,
If you
go
ever
for
have
it, man.
if you ever have a child and that child is getting bullied, you ask him, is the kid who's bullying you taller than you, or is the kid who's bullying, or is he smaller than you? Okay, if he's smaller than you, then wait till he's not expecting it and come up from behind him and whack him on the side of the head as hard as you possibly can. Now, that's if he's smaller than you. If he's bigger than you, then grab the nearest hard object you can find and do the same thing with that object. Because that's the only way you'll ever deal with bullying. Trust me.
Based.
There's nothing. Now,
I don't think this will get you hate. Not with our general fan base.
Well, maybe some kids will die as a result, but
shouldn't have bullied. Shouldn't have bullied.
Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Exactly. I just quoted that today at band practice.
Fuck yeah. Great minds.
Yeah. No, if we're going into the thing of dad lore, I was thinking, what if I ever have a son, like, and he gets bullied, then he's going to have to learn that no one's going to defend you, not your teacher, not your mom, and not your dad. You're going to have to do it yourself,
Yeah.
So stick up for yourself.
Yeah. If he gets in trouble,
Always.
you got his back.
Exactly. I got his back. That's it.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for that, and thank you once again, Donagh, for coming on, talking everything Xonor with us, and a whole lot of irreverent anti-government and European stuff. So
hell yeah,
much love, man. It's been a good time, but we'll let you get some beauty sleep, and
thanks.
And no, that's what the ski mask's for, right? It's why
exactly.
I mask up too.
Exactly.
It makes my life a lot easier. All right. Well, thank you, man. We'll let you know when this is coming out.
Please
probably
do,
Sunday.
And yeah, probably Sunday.
Probably Sunday. It's a podcast cliche at this point.
Yeah. It is. Go get everyone ready for the next week. All right. Well,
awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. And until next time, Nathan.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.